Good morning and welcome. We're glad that you're here. Very glad you're here. Whether you're a current Paideia family or someone exploring educational options or a community member thinking deeply about education, that's the purpose of this project. I'm Dr. Brian Winsor. I'm the executive director and the founder of Paideia Academies from back in 2011-12. I'm joined by Mrs. Victoria Jones, who is the new executive director of educational programs, who started with us as a third grade teacher after having a lot of experience anyway, then became the curriculum director, and now is the chief and running the operations on campus. Today's conversation is the beginning of a new series, our desire to become a thought leader and to help the Paideia community, the South Phoenix community in the Phoenix area. We're calling the series the Paideia Way, Conversations on Whole Person Education.
So this is not a presentation about a program or a pitch for a school. This really is an invitation into a broader conversation about what education is for and how families and schools can work together to help children grow, not just academically, but as whole people. So we invite you to post your questions or your comments in the chat box. We'll take a moment at the end to respond the best we can.
Thank you. Hey, here's a guiding question that's helping to have the foundation of this project of whole person education. Why does whole person education feel especially important right now? You know, for me, there's an increase. I've been in education, my whole life, of course, because I did go to kindergarten, elementary school. The early days of education, in my experience, is different than now. And then even as a young special ed teacher in 1991, in the 90s, a principal, a consultant across the country, and now owning and running a charter school, it's an increasingly complex world. Much more anxiety, much more pressure on students and families.
Yeah.
I think the problem too is that there's an over narrow definition of success. We define success by what did you get on your report card? What grade did you get? And so we need to, the cost of focusing on only outcomes is a true problem right now. Teddy Roosevelt once said that to educate a man in mind and not in morals is to educate a menace to society. And I think, Mrs. Jones, I think that families are sensing that they need something more. So
Yeah, I definitely think that they are. I think that a lot of families are really wanting to find more connection. I think that the more that people are looking for is safety, emotional safety, physical safety, a sense of connectedness with the community. And I think that that leads to children feeling embraced by their community and families feeling embraced by their community. And that's very important to people. I think that's what people are looking for, more than just going to school to get good grades or, to study for a test. But it's really about who do you find there, who sees you, who knows you, and how does that make you feel at the end of the day when you go home from school.
I love that, the idea to be seen, to be known, truly to be known.
Yeah.
So, Ms. Jones, when we say whole person education, I mean, you are a seasoned veteran, seen everything from I know your educational history, where you've taught and where you've been. So when we say whole person education, what do you think? What do we actually mean by that?
Well, the idea of whole person education, this is actually not a new idea. This really has roots back into the 1960s, 1970s. There was a movement for looking at the whole child and educating more than just academics. And it really came back to life during the era of the No Child Left Behind movement. And it was all about we need to focus more on the holistic growth of our scholars instead of just testing them. So it's not a new idea. It's the idea of educating the intellect and developing character and helping children find a sense of purpose. We're teaching about leadership and about leadership being a sense of responsibility and that there's a sense of agency, personal agency, this ability for one to choose their own response. And then, of course, there's the side of this that's about academic excellence and the idea of rigor not just being about more work or academic excellence being about more work, but it's about deep thinking and having an inquiry based opportunity in class. So these things are essential. They're not just optional in whole child education. So we are supporting, whole persons is supported through true academic rigor, not just busy work, academic rigor. So we're preparing students for life, not just for school, and for career, for their life, to become a family member, to become, and later on in their years, we hope that they'll become leaders of their families and themselves. So
I
we're
like how you
preparing them
said
for
that.
all of that.
Right, leaders of their family, leaders of themselves, leaders of their family. I remember 1991 when the No Child Left Behind Act was actually signed by
Hmm.
first President Bush, and I was a special ed teacher of
Mm,
kids with learning behavior and emotional disorders, seventh through ninth grade, and the law came out that every child had to go to college.
yeah.
And I looked at my guys and I said, I don't think there's a need for them to go to college. These guys want to be welders. They want to, and I had young women in there too. They
Yeah.
wanted careers, not necessarily that 4, 6, 12 year path. Can you, I like what you said about rigor, because sometimes we think rigor is just more work or
Yeah.
harder work. Can you touch on that again? What do you mean by rigor, and how do you support kids through rigor?
Well, we define rigor as an inquiry-based process that is collaborative. So we teach collaborative strategies and that it involves an idea around a concept, especially, connected to a text, connected to reading and thinking and discussing and writing. So rigor can look like a lot of different things. It may not look like taking home big, huge textbooks or taking home or having packets of work to fill out, but it really looks like diving deep into a concept, learning it deeply, asking lots of questions about that concept, asking your peers lots of questions about that, and coming together to a consensus based on a collaborative discussion and the collaborative strategies that we implement.
I think that's a paradigm shift, not only needed for the school and the teachers, but with all the love in my heart, I want to emphasize that to our families. Because sometimes as
Absolutely.
a young principal, teachers or families come to me and say, why doesn't my kid have homework? Why aren't they
Yeah.
sent home with a big packet for us to do at home all week? And homework does not equal rigor. And sometimes I'd counsel them to say, hey, you have a job all day. Do you want to bring a bunch of homework home with you?
Absolutely.
So
Right.
rigor is an amount of work, it's the amount of thinking and
It's we're
collaboration.
right, and we're stretching that into what really whole person rigor. It's
Yeah.
asking not just what students know or how much they know, but who are they becoming? How are we developing them into the people that they're going to become?
Okay, I like that. So whole person education asks not only what a student knows, but who they are becoming.
Yes.
So crucial for our future in America and in South Phoenix and in Phoenix and in our whole world. Let's use
Yes.
education to help people become instead of just what they know.
Yes.
So, why is Paideia choosing to host this conversation publicly? Well, I think it's because schools have a responsibility to contribute to the broader community. In the old
Yeah.
days, there was a school and a post office, and that was the center of town, and a church. School, post office, church. That was the
Yeah.
center of the town, and people gathered there as the community center. And I think families deserve this thoughtful, honest conversation about education. And I love that we have guests, and I hope they can post some questions and things for us to consider as we go. Our philosophy is really grounded in practice, not popular trends, and certainly not pressure. We stick with our moral values of whole person education. And thoughtful leadership doesn't mean selling stuff, it means serving the community based upon our principles. And we want to invite the dialogue because dialogue from diverse angles, that increases trust and clarity. We don't believe that whole person education belongs to any one school. It cannot be a school program.
Yeah.
It has to be a way of educating everyone, and it deserves thoughtful leadership by our community, the Paideia Way.
Well, I was thinking a lot about why we say whole person education. The movement really has language around whole child education, and it's really, of course we are child focused and we're scholar focused, but whole person education wraps its arms around that entire community. It's the adults too, right? So we want that to include our, everyone that is in that school community, including the teachers, the staff, everyone who has an impact on that child. And I think that's why we celebrate that term whole person education. It's encompassing everyone. It's not just about the student. It's really about everyone who impacts that student and how they are able to also access that whole person care, that we're interested in.
I agree. I could not have said it better.
Yeah. So here's how we'll do this, right? Each week we're going to host a live Zoom conversation. It's going to be focused on a single question that's related to a whole person education. It's going to be from leadership in academics to family partnerships and how to choose a school thoughtfully, everything that could impact a community member, a parent, anyone around who's interested in whole person education. So we'll do the live webinar. It will be recorded as a podcast. We'll post to Spotify, to iHeartRadio, Apple, and others. More to come. This is a conversation that's open to families and to our broader community. It's open to everyone and anyone who's interested in that topic or has more to learn. And it's designed really to support reflection. There's no pressure here. There's no right or wrong answer. We really want to open up the dialogue and open up this conversation around whole person education to support the entire community and everyone.
And I hope also that, Mrs. Jones, you have some wonderful experts on your campus who I would love to hear from in this
We do.
conversation and invite them in. And I imagine that in the community, we have some other people who are deeply invested in whole person education, whether it's a minister at a different church
Mhm.
or somebody from South Mountain Community College. ASU is a great
Yeah.
partner of ours in our community. So we'll expand this to more thought leaders and to our families. So you've got some great parents there too, who've been with us a long time and understand whole person education from the family perspective.
We certainly do. We have a large community of experts in this. Really, people who've been with us for a long time, whether as staff members or as parents, as families, as community members,
Yeah.
people who may not have a direct connection to Paideia, but they're in our community and they impact us and we impact them. So we want all of those people to be involved here in this process.
Absolutely.
So I know I want to give you a little sneak peek on some of our upcoming episodes and some of the topics we'll be covering on this podcast. So we're going to talk about seeing schools and how to see a school clearly, how to know what to expect from a school, developing leadership in young children and adolescents. We'll talk about academics and beyond. We'll talk about what it means to be well educated and what are we looking for in a well educated child. We'll definitely dive into family partnerships and into community partnerships and connection and into thoughtful decision making, mission living, mission planning,
Yeah.
and how all of those things tie together into developing a strong and healthy whole person. So I know we'll have some interesting topics coming up that I can't wait to dive into these discussions. Each conversation in this series We'll end with one simple practice, something that we hope families can try during the week to support whole person balance. So we're going to
I'm
start that
excited
now.
about
So
this
this,
part of it. I'm really excited about this
I'm
part.
excited about this too, because this is actually something you can try at home. So this week, we are challenging you to practice name what matters. So to do this week, we would like you to take 5 quiet minutes. You can do this alone or with your family. You might do it first alone and then with your family. It's up to you. But we want you to reflect on this question. What do you hope education helps us become, not just achieve? What do we hope education helps us become, not just achieve? Don't worry, you don't need a perfect answer to any of these questions. You're just going to notice what comes up and what sticks out to you as important. You're going to name what matters in reference to that question. What do we hope education helps us become, not just achieve?
Nice. Now, after the webinar, everyone who is registered for the webinar, subscribe to it, I guess, they will get a PDF coming back to them as a worksheet to help them with the weekly practice. Hey, as we end today's conversation, we want you to remember something. You are also a whole person. We want you to be kind. Be kind to you, be kind to your mind, be kind to your heart, your body, your spirit, and be well. And until next time, this is the Paideia Way.